कि अगर धंधा करना है तो सर पे बर्फ और जबान पे शक्कर is what you need. You know, and keep your head calm and talk sweetly.
Thank you so much for doing this with us, Varun. We're sitting in Bangalore, but we're both from Bombay. And I have to reference this one thing that you said just out of context of everything. You said that if you want to change the plumbing or anything, you have to start manufacturing. So how's the manufacturing going?
I had to change to manufacture, I had to come to Bangalore. Because otherwise I've grown up all my life in Bombay.
Yeah.
When we decided to sort of set up an insurance company from scratch, it's kind of unheard of to do a bank or an insurance company from scratch. We realized that we had to make our own products. We had to hire a large technology team to figure it out, bunch of people. And I'd done one startup in Bombay.
Yeah.
And I just knew somehow that it's hard to do it in Bombay. As much as I love the city, it's hard to do it in Bombay. And that's why I came to Bangalore to sort of start manufacturing from scratch. And what I technically sort of mean by that is that you can't just put a layer on something that's broken.
Yeah.
And you'll have to sort of fix it right from the root.
Yeah.
And that's what I learned.
And you have to go to the depth of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Amazing. So, because we're going into the depth of it, I have to start from the very beginning. So, kind of like your plumbing.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your childhood in Bombay. What was a typical day in your house? What was life like, right? Like as you were growing up?
So, I was born in Delhi, but I moved to Bombay when I was 2. So, I've pretty much grown up in Bombay. So, I grew up in a fairly middle class household. My mom was a principal in a government school, and my dad had a PSU government job. And my dad got a job in which he had to go to Uran. I don't know whether people are aware of this. This is where the new airport's coming up.
Okay,
you know, the new Bombay airport.
Yeah.
And therefore, we had to shift to Vashi because it was too far for him to travel for work. So I grew up in New Bombay when New Bombay was practically nothing. I have a sibling, one younger brother. So very typical middle-class household living in a government flat in Vashi. And slowly, I think by the year 2000, my parents saved up enough money to buy a house there. Strict father. He's mellowed down now after many years. Working parents. I grew up at a so-called, there was nothing called a creche, but I grew up at a neighbor's house because both my parents were working, and my brother's 7 years younger than I am, so I was a half father to him, sending him to school, getting his homework done and stuff like that. Yeah.
You said that your father was strict. Did that how strict? You know, like in the sense, like in what context, and B, did that kind of mold certain aspects of your personality?
Strict in the say he was hard to please. Let me put it. Let me put it that way. Let me put it this way. I think he was. I wouldn't say all because it's bad to kind of generalize, but he was a typical Indian dad, right? Like who's not very emotive, in some sense. So always worried about my grades. Disappointed when I didn't do well.
Yeah.
Frugal with money. I would have fights with him on why you're not spending. You know, why do you have to behave like that, and so on and so forth. So it was also a little bit of a generational clash in some sense. I remember this one. I used to have to take a bus to go to college, and I still remember it was 504 Wadala Agaar. That's what it was.
That's how much it's like imprinted.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And all my friends used to get onto the bus from a bus stop, you know, one or two bus stops earlier than I would.
Okay.
And by the time it came to my bus stop, the bus would be full.
Yeah.
So I had to go standing. Yeah. And also my friends would be in some other corner of the bus. So it's a 1 hour bus ride. You're sweaty, you're standing, and plus you have no one to talk to because everybody else is, you know, sort of sitting somewhere else.
Yeah.
And this is what I mean by my dad being strict. So I used to ask him for rickshaw money so that I could go 2 stops back.
Just that commute. Like
just that I want to go back 2 stops so I can get to be with my friends and get a seat. Yeah. And he's like, who does that? Who goes back? and so on and so forth.
That's
So,
a valid question.
yeah.
Like, who goes back
who goes
is a valid
back? Yeah.
question.
But all these things, oh, I want to sit with my friends.
Yeah,
I'm not getting a
he's just
seat.
like, no.
He's like, go figure this out. I'm not giving you rickshaw money.
Did you, in this atmosphere where, obviously, like you mentioned, like middle class family, father's strict, what was brewing within you in terms of what you saw for your life, right? Because clearly there was a mindset difference in terms of how you wanted to spend money, how your family was spending money.
Yeah.
Did you have any set like, okay, my life will be like this, so I'll do this, or I'll become this in life while growing up?
Strangely, it was not. I was pretty aimless.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In my extended family, by and large, everybody was academically fairly good. So there was always a little bit of high pressure to do well. But I would say I was good, but I wasn't like very motivated or driven to top the class, to excel in extracurricular stuff, to go to the US or study further. I was just pretty aimless.
So if somebody asked you the question,
Yeah.
which is the most generic question asked to every kid, which for the life of me I can't understand, because how you're supposed to know this while growing up, is what do you want to be when you grow up? What would you say?
At that point,
Yeah.
I was like, very funny it may sound, but I was fascinated by news reading. I was like, I want to be a newsreader.
Wow.
I would look at Prannoy Roy, and there used to be this show called The World This Week,
Yeah.
which used to air on DD then, whatever, or DD, or one of the first few channels that came up. And I was like, oh my God, this is so awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
He seems so knowledgeable, he's so eloquent, and so on. So it was like some random fascination. I don't think I wanted to specifically do that, but I was at least in awe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I didn't have a plan. I want to be an engineer. I want to do this.
Nothing.
No, I just did not. There were few things that I knew that I didn't want to do.
Which is?
Like, I was quite clear that I couldn't take up engineering. I just couldn't.
Yeah, which is something that like engineer, doctor, two of the most, like common paths.
Yeah.
At least back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day, that's all you got. But
Yeah.
I was quite clear that wo mere se hoega hi nahi. Matlab, I just don't want to do it.
Like I don't have the bandwidth.
I don't have the bandwidth. I don't want to do it. So I kept eliminating choices, saying either sometimes running away, to be honest, saying that this is too hard,
Yeah.
or I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I don't think I had any plan. I would say, I would go to the extent of saying, I don't think I had any plan for my life till I was 30, 29, 30.
Wow.
I was just,
That is so refreshing to hear, because, like very often you see leaders or thought provokers and say that, they must have figured it out way back. But so many of them talk about how it was only not until very much later that you figured it out, because everything has its own timeline.
Yeah.
But in lieu of that, you did go to MICA. So how did that decision happen, right?
Oh, if I have to be honest with you, people think I'm super dumb or something like that. But so I took up commerce after, because like I said, I didn't want to do engineering. I was at Podar College in Bombay.
Yeah.
And I said, I thought I'll do my CA, because that's what everybody getting out of Podar did.
Yeah.
And these were the years when everybody used to take this CAT examination for the IMs and MDI and all of these places. And I had no intention of doing it, but I just went and sat for the exam because everybody was doing it. And that's what, all my friends, sab de rahe exam, to ye sabhi dete hain, to mujhe bhi dena chahiye. And I got through MICA, and one or two colleges, I had some interview calls, and MICA was a marketing school.
Yeah.
And I was trying to do chartered accountancy, and because I was, I was like, some people are saying the school is good, but I am not really interested in marketing. But one interesting thing happened, that I was like a year younger for my batch, coincidentally. So schooling, right? Depending on when you're born, something like that.
Yeah.
So, like, a lot of people spoke to me and they said, "Acha college hai, chale jao, it doesn't matter." I said, I'm not even sure I want to do this. Not that I was sure that I wanted to do chartered accountancy or whatever.
Yeah.
The only thing that stuck with me was that I would be a postgraduate and out of there by the time I was 21 and a half, 22.
Which is before people your age would typically
even start figuring it out. So I said, "ठीक है, कर लेते हैं."
What's
I'll just be 21 and a half, 22 with a postgrad degree. I can travel abroad, I can figure this out, I'll do a job, I'll study more, maybe. So I just went there because I had no other plan.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had no other better college, I had no other dream. I had no like, oh no, I want to go to Ahmedabad or I want to go to Wharton or so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I was like, ये ठीक लग रहा है. अभी तो कर ही ले, काफी लोग जा रहे हैं. So
They must know what they're doing. So
yeah. Let me just run along. And my only, sort of consolation was that I have age on my side. I'll finish this and then I can still figure what to do.
But that's a good one.
Yeah.
Because you effectively bought yourself time, which is like, amazing. And what was the experience like? Now you've reached there, you made this decision. What was the experience? Did it kind of change you in any way? Did you figure yourself out more while you were there?
Partly, I'd say first couple of months were horrible because I just hated the place.
Okay.
Because one, I had just taken this decision out of, like there are no other choices right now, or I don't know what to do. And I wasn't even sure this is what I wanted to do. So I didn't like the place. But you're 20 years old, you start hanging out with friends, you start trying to date women, you start drinking, smoking, having fun. You're out of the house for the first time, you're in a hostel. So you start having fun with all your friends and so on and so forth. So I don't think I was very serious about, I would get by in class.
Okay.
Till school, I would be in like top 3, top 4 people in the class.
Yeah.
College, it went to, I don't care.
Yeah.
And by the time I was in postgraduate, I said, pass ho jayenge.
Yeah. It's like a consistent
downgrade.
Yeah.
Completely. So anything that now in hindsight, and I just couldn't work hard, to be honest. Like I see my friends or my batchmates kind of stressing over assignments and like grade nahi aa raha hai. Some of them at least, if not all of them. And I'd be like, yeah, theek hai, ho jayega kuch na kuch.
What's the big deal?
What's the big deal? And only in hindsight now, and I just couldn't work hard. I thought I was lazy.
Yeah.
In fact, all my batchmates till this day don't think I'm the same person because they could not believe that I could have this level of ambition to, and I just realized that only if it was something that I could make a difference or move something, it would interest me and I could put in the work. If it was just like academic, if it is theoretical, I just couldn't get myself to move.
Basically, the grade wouldn't motivate you. Like, okay, to like excel at the top of the class or whatever. But if you felt passionately about a particular line, that moved you.
But that also I think I discovered only after a period of time. I don't think I knew then.
Right.
That
Yeah.
I didn't think I had the capability to work hard.
Yeah.
I was surprised that I was able to work hard.
And what was your parents' reaction when, especially your father, when top 3 has become now, chalo,
he gave up on me.
Okay.
He's like, ठीक है, अब जो कर रहा है करने दो. He started concentrating on the second son because he was doing well.
He was like, the hope is there.
ये इसका कुछ नहीं होने वाला.
Yeah. And did you get into a lot of trouble during these years?
No, not so much. I'd say a little bit, but not. I think quite a few of my. So I had this thing. In school, I would do well. I would be in the top 3, top 4 in class. But I used to think that it was uncool to be the studious kind of stupid notions, right, in your head at that point, at that age. So I used to ensure I also hang out with the crowd, which is like there's in Bombay there's a word when you sit on a wall and just in the it's called QATTA.
Oh yeah, of course.
I was just like so there used to be in college and school this QATTA who's just basically bunking classes and sitting outside on the road, right? Like and just smoking or talking or having an ice cream or whatever the hell they're doing. I used to ensure I hang out there because I didn't want to be like the studious. Though I would do well, but I think in that ability now that I think of it has helped me well because I can engage with any sort of crowd.
Yeah, because there was a balance.
Yeah, I can engage with somebody who's completely crass, or somebody who's reasonably refined. Yeah. So.
How interesting. But it's amazing that you had that foresight back then that this balance in my life is...
I don't think it was foresight. I just thought it was uncool. I don't think there was any foresight. I just thought it was like completely uncool because like, यार ये मतलब तिल लगा के first bench पे बैठ जाते हैं या मैं वो नहीं हूँ. So that was my...
And After MICA, you had a interesting few years, right?
Yeah.
Like you went to Leo Burnett, then you did Tata AIG. There was a couple of stints that you
Yeah.
did. So what is it that now was your state of mind as you're now in the corporate world where you can't just be like, okay, I'll pass.
Yeah.
Like you have to kind of deliver at least to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So what was that trajectory like?
Yeah, I think Leo Burnett was very short. I think it was more of an internship, and I figured this is not for me.
Okay.
Advertising was not for me.
Yeah.
Is what I figured. I liked the work, but I just didn't like how, I just felt that, at least in that time, I don't know whether it's any different right now, but at that time it was just like you're just sucking up to the client. That's all you do. That's your job, And I didn't think that was a job.
Client servicing managers everywhere are standing up and applauding you
now. You're just like, kya hai ye? And they'll call you at odd hours, and like some shit is going on.
I'm there.
Yeah.
Like you're preaching to the choir. Like,
so I was clear I didn't want to do that. Yeah. I'd done a project on insurance, and there was this lady, I still credit her with pulling me into that because she liked my project. This lady called Sujata Datta, who was my first boss.
At Leo Burnett?
No, at Tata AIG.
At Tata AIG,
She was at the Tata Group. She was an ex-City banker.
Yeah.
And I had done a project on insurance, coincidentally. And I had no any affiliation to insurance or anything. Coincidentally, I picked up that project, and I needed some industry guides to help me. So I reached out to her, thoda survey, research, ye batao, wo batao, and all that.
Make it sound so sarkari. Like
no, but that's what it was,
Yeah,
right? Like you're just ticking the box, you have to get a grade, एक project करना है. So you're like, okay, let me talk to people, and honestly, that's how I'd approach it. Like you have to tick the box if you finish this. But when I was doing it, I think I got a little interested. I spoke to her. I submitted the report back in college, and then I gave the report to her. Hey, thank you for helping me. Here's the report. I think a couple of months later, she called me that I want to hire you.
Oh, wow.
I was like, okay, great. I don't want to do this anyway.
Yeah.
So let me go there, and that's how my journey with so-called with insurance began.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I realized in the I think first 6-8 months I really struggled because I had winged my way through college to a level that when data used to come in Excel and all company data for me to analyze, मुझे चलाना भी नहीं आता था because I was like, I could do it, but I knew that they expected that I would know this, but I had to really figure it out on the job because I'd winged my way through a lot of things in college. I was like, हाँ ठीक है, देख लेंगे. So,
and how were you figuring it out? Like, were you like Googling things, asking?
Yeah, Googling things, asking somebody. Somewhere I had that innate confidence that I'm not dumb. I can figure it out, but I was just not, I needed to decide to put my brain into something. So I think first 6 months, I, kind of got a hang of it.
Yeah.
And then started getting interested in the business problem, and over a period of time, I think I realized that this just like, and I don't mean to say it demeaningly at all, there's so much mediocrity in the way people, either they're not interested and it's like a 9 to 5 and get my money and go back home. So even if they have the intellectual capability, maybe they don't want to push it.
It's stunted.
It's stunted because I look at this as a source of income more than something I really want to change or do. Or people are just mediocre in general. I don't know what the case was, but I was amazed at why we were not doing some things as a company or as a unit or a function at that point. I was too junior to sort of go and question a first job, right? Like literally first job. I was like, yaar, ye kyun nahi kar rahe hain? Ye to theek hi lag raha hai. Matlab, where am I? Where am I missing the point somewhere? And I started getting deeper and deeper into it, and I was able to get to a point where some of the seniors cross-functionally would look bad because I would be able to produce some insights or some data to say I'm galat kar rahe, in some sense. That's when I think I started to develop a little bit of confidence, frankly, that a lot of people are way too either not bothered or mediocre or whatever it is. and like, I can do this, I can do better. Like I think that confidence started to come in, that I can make things happen.
Yeah.
That's was my big discovery.
Right.
And I'd also credit a couple of my bosses there. I found really good bosses in my first job, which was, I think, a lot of my friends who sort of got jobs at the same time. Some of them did, some of them didn't get great bosses.
Yeah.
I got leaders who believed in me, who asked me to think big, gave me assignments which I was way above my pay grade.
Yeah.
So I think that was like a superlative experience for me for the first 4 or 5 years.
And this is an interesting that you bring this up, because the role of mentors is so understated, right? Especially in the nascent stage of one's career. What would your advice be to the youth who are watching this, that in terms of figuring it out or winging it or just career goals in general, what would your advice kind of be?
I have a very different, outlook on this, and maybe slightly philosophical. I don't think you can work very hard or excel at something or make a lot of money or whatever it is your goal is, or be famous or whatever it is that you want to do, unless it comes from a deep purpose and attachment. It just doesn't. People just don't last the journey, right? Like the journey is very long to actually achieve and be fulfilled in whatever is, even your material success journey. Some people can get it luckily, but mostly the journey is fairly long. And what I see with the youth or people in general is that people don't last the journey. And the reason they don't last the journey is not because they're not hardworking. I think I met many people who are much more hardworking than I am.
Yeah.
I think they're not attached to what they're doing. वो प्यार नहीं है.
The purpose.
The purpose is not there.
Yeah.
And I don't think I found my purpose accidentally. It wasn't like I love insurance. It's a weird subject to love anyway. So
nobody wakes up and says, I love insurance.
No, it's just that was my journey.
Yeah.
And in that journey, I started seeing things in a lens that probably I felt others were not seeing.
Yeah.
And I started getting attached to it. Then it becomes a little bit of ego that I can solve it, right?
Yeah.
Until that purpose and ego kind of get together, so my advice is really to try and keep searching for what is it that you really like to do. And it could be like you want to climb the mountains, you want to be an influencer, or you want to aim to, I did a talk somewhere, or you want to try and take Sundar Pichai's job, whatever it is, But unless you're like deeply attached to it, most people then it just becomes a 9 to 5.
Yeah. So look beyond the 9 to 5.
Yeah. And and you might get to it at 35.
Yeah.
You might get to it at 40.
Yeah. But after this, when you've kind of gotten this confidence and discovered that, okay, maybe I can solve for a problem.
Yeah.
What was the next step that you took?
So after I worked at that Tata Group company, then I think I moved out. I had another job with Templeton in the mutual fund business. I didn't like that job so much, to be honest, because I was used to some high-paced action in my previous job, and this place, coincidentally for me at least, worked out very thanda. There's not much happening.
Yeah.
A lot of the approvals would happen out of the US. So you would just
bureaucracy.
you would just mail and wait for a week to move things. And in about 8, 9 months, 10 months, I think I was like, पैसे तो अच्छे मिल रहे हैं, लेकिन I don't know what to do here. But I was always sort of fascinated with the internet in general. This is back in 2008-9, and we had started, Flipkart was already there, but I used to be fascinated by the fact that what is Flipkart? What is it doing? The eBay, there's a couple of these 3-4 names you had heard of at that point, right? And there's a little bit of fascination. While I didn't want to take engineering ever, I was somehow always interested in that world. And it started from, I missed this point. My dad had worked in South Korea and Japan or somewhere for a while. And when there were no computers in India, and he had got me a 486 or 386, internet and the world of the way it was moving was always fascinating to me. And I said, ये गलत जगह पे यार, ये सब finance, the world is going to change, and I need to be in that world.
Wow.
This was my thought process in that job when I wanted to quit.
How old were you at this point?
I was maybe 26,
Oh.
27.
Okay. Yeah.
Just trying to. I started to apply for jobs in like companies like ClearTrip and eBay. Because मुझे Bombay नहीं छोड़ना था उस time. And I went for interviews. I think ClearTrip or whatever rejected me. They didn't hire me. And eBay, something happened and the offer came, but eventually it didn't work out. A variety of reasons. And I was in this mid space, not sure. So I decided to take a break. I said I'm going to take a little bit of a break.
For how long?
I had no idea because in the Tata group
Yeah.
where I was there, Tata AG, and they loved me there. I loved them. So I knew that I could always go back.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm taking a break. I don't know what to do. But will you hire me in case I'm not able to?
Like you're making your safety
net. Yeah. I was like, so they were like, तुम्हें कभी भी आना है, तुम वापस आ जाओ, कोई tension नहीं. So I was like, ठीक है, let me see. You know, I can always go back, you know, here because I'd done a good job there. And I knew people were comfortable with the work that I would do there.
Yeah.
But that break, I think one thing led to another. I kept meeting people. I said, अच्छा अभी break here, so let me try something. You know, insurance companies always struggle with software. Let me meet some people. Let me, you know, it's just like, it's just a break kind of, that break, I never took up a job after that.
Yeah.
Like some bunch of things for insurance companies. Just trying to get some money so that I could just sustain, right? Like I didn't have a job.
Yeah.
And then I met someone who was from IIT Bombay, who was a great developer, and I told him, यार insurance companies को technology बिल्कुल नहीं समझ में आता. And let's sell them technology, you know. And yeah, one thing led to the other, and that's how I just started doing stuff.
Yeah. And you moved into effectively startups, which is very different from what it's been so far. Was there a moment of hesitation at all when this happened? Because obviously you were now going to, as opposed to reporting to somebody, you were going to lead it, right? Like with both your startups that happened pre-Acko. So what was the thought process?
I get excited by, you know, cracking some problem. So as I was not looking at it from I have to handle this, I have to be the leader now or anything of that sort. You know, it used to give me a kick that I've come out of nowhere and I'm going and telling a company like ICICI buy technology from me, and they'll be like, who the hell are you? Like, you know, we can't trust like these two kids who've come to say that we'll tell you what to do, you know, and but I used to be dogged about it. Like I'll go and meet them like 5 times and explain it to them. And to me, to clinch that deal, to convince someone that no, we can solve this was like a huge, it was a rush in my head. But that rush of solving it and proving that I can do it just kind of kept me going. I wasn't very thoughtful about, and the reason I've done 2 startups is I think both the times I didn't understand how to run a business properly. It just took me a while to kind of understand what I'm doing, whether it'll scale, not scale, what the business side mistakes are.
Correct. And then you obviously have founded Acko, and you secured a $30 million round even before beginning. How did that feel? And what does that say about your credibility to yourself? You know, the fact that people could vouch on what you built so far, and how did that kind of happen?
Yeah, it was relief more than anything else because while it all came nicely, the 30 million even before starting and all of that, the journey before that has been pretty painful. So I sold software to insurance companies, then I did CoverFox, and that, I think those bits built the credibility a little bit, that I knew at least what I was talking about. But it's still a big leap of faith for people to come and say that, and 30 million in those days was 220 crores.
It's crazy.
And say, hey, here's the money and let's build an insurance company from scratch. And you don't even know whether, and it's a regulated business, right? Which had never come for a startup. There is Kotak, ICICI, Bajaj and all this, but we are not Kotak, ICICI, right? Like whatever. So we are just like trying to figure this out. These two investors were in CoverFox with me. They had invested in CoverFox. And I had actually gone and told them that हम गलत business कर रहे हैं. आपने पैसे तो डाल दिए, लेकिन ये गलत धंधा है. You know, not गलत in the sense that its potential is far lower. It's not a wrong business, it's a much lower potential business. And I just felt that unless you are able to charge differently, do the claims differently, this is what I meant by the plumbing. I can just take somebody else's products which are meant for agents to sell or banks to sell and just put them online.
Yeah.
That's like just one very superficial layer.
Yeah.
We have to look at it through and through of what the whole
Depth.
thing needs, the depth of it, or what needs to change. And I kept telling these investors that nahi hum galat kar rahe hain aur hame ye karna chahiye. And thankfully the reason I give them credit was that it's not very often that it's happened that investors will come and say कि ठीक है, we agree with you. We've already put money on something and let's flip.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was a lot of confidence. Took about 2 years with the government finally.
Wow. To even secure that. And what age were you at this point in your life?
This happened in 2017. So yeah, I was 34, 35.
Okay. And parallelly in your personal life, what was going on, right? Like in terms of now, obviously the stakes are a lot higher. So how was your family's reaction? What was happening? You'd met your wife. So can you talk us through the personal parallel that was happening?
Yeah. So I got married in 2012.
Okay. Way before any of this.
Way before. So I was like starting off Cover Fox when I got married. So I was still finding my feet.
Yeah.
Really. And my wife used to work for Radio Mirchi at that point.
Yeah.
She used to handle programming. So we got married, but both of us were super headstrong. And I was doing my own stuff. मेरे को तो startup बनाना है, ये करना है, वो करना है. And she was like busy in her career. So I think we were great friends. But let me put it this way: the couple side was just moving along because both of us were too busy. You know,
like you're leading your individual lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
In a way, it was good also.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what was happening. And as I think as things, and that's somewhere I believe both she and me made mistakes in the relationship because we just didn't give each other enough time. We just got caught in our I wouldn't call it ambitions, but in our groove, in the mechanics of whatever we were doing. So we would try to assemble back and, try and ensure that we give each other time. But we were, I think, just moving along in some sense. And one thing led to, and then Bangalore happened. And she was still in Bombay because she had just taken up a new job when I was deciding to move to Bangalore. So we were staying apart for a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
Saying, "Okay, theek hai, aate hain, karte hain." Like everything was like,
flow.
Was slow and getting procrastinated. That we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out, in some sense. So yeah, so she's been like I think one thing I need to give her credit for is that she took a call on first getting married to me, but I was just doing nothing. Like practically just like, मैं कुछ तो try कर रहा हूँ. So I think that was good, but yeah, she's just seen me through like really horrid times because it all sounds okay now, but between all this journey of 2 companies and so on and so forth, there have been really bad days. Days where we thought, so you think you're going to get shut down tomorrow or पैसे आ गए हैं लेकिन गवर्नमेंट लाइसेंस नहीं दे रही है, साल भर हो गया है. You are carrying that stress back home, right?
Of course.
So you're not in a good mood. Yeah, so she's had to, I think, silently suffer a bunch of these things.
Yeah. And what about your family? What is your father's reaction when you landed this check?
I think I got, even before Acko, along with Cover Fox and so on and so forth, I think thoda redemption ho gaya tha, if I can use that word. He's like, okay, he's not as dumb as I expected. And maybe I was thinking, there is hope. From a little bit of a antagonistic stand that both of us had to each other, towards each other, it kind of, mellowed down. And now we're like thick. So it's fun. Yeah.
Amazing. And, so these 2 years that kind of went by till you secured your licenses and kind of effectively made it happen, what was the mindset that you were operating from? Was it laced with a lot of anxiety? Because you have said in a couple of your interviews, that every business suffers 1 or 2 near-death experiences. So did this kind of mold how you were thinking, or what was it like?
I think in my previous businesses, once or twice it had happened that we were about to run out of money.
Yeah.
Or so I think I'd become a little thick-skinned by then because those initial times when it happened, I was like, ये तो आसमान टूट गया है, मतलब you're like
it's all over.
It's all over, right? but you realize that you're able to, figure it out. You won't let it all fall down.
Yeah.
You can find ways and to get it done. So I think I wouldn't say the anxiety goes away, even when the licensing was taking too long or the government approvals were taking too long. The anxiety is there, but I think you get so attached to what you're doing. You are thinking of plan B, plan C, plan D. अच्छा license नहीं आया तो मैं I'll buy a struggling insurance company. I'll do this, I'll do that. But your mind is not resting. You're not willing to accept the fact that something may just not happen.
Yeah, because you care that much, so you're building for contingency.
You're like, I'll figure it out. So you're anxious about getting it done faster, but you also are not going to give up if it's taking longer.
Exactly. That's not an option.
Yeah, that's not an option. It just wasn't an option in my head.
Yeah.
And I wasn't like trying to talk myself into it. It was just like, it was hardwired.
Yeah.
ये तो करना ही है.
At that point, by that point.
Somehow or the other, this has to happen.
Yeah. And when you finally began, what was that experience like? Because this was the big one, obviously.
Yeah.
I
think it was very funny. So, so when you're an insurance company, right? Like it's my product.
Yeah.
And you can be a company which is making bags or shampoos or whatever it is, but insurance is not something people buy from unknown people, right? Like I need to know, अच्छा Tata है, ICICI, मेरा पैसा ले रहे हैं, वापस करेंगे, कल claim आएगा तो. Trust is important, right? So we set up and we got the website live, I think in December 2017, Jan 2018. And I was like, कौन लेगा? Like, who's gonna come and, who's that first sucker, if I can use that word, who's gonna who's like, ये कौन है, मैं ले लेता हूँ. I think for the first 2-3 days, nobody bought. People would come to the website, they कौन है company, right? We had not advertised. We didn't have enough money also to advertise. Like, so I think first 2 days when nobody was like, ये बहुत सारे पैसे लेके खोल तो दिया है लेकिन who's gonna buy right? Like I always knew we would have to build a brand and so on and so forth, but you need that first few customers, right, to start feeling कि कुछ होगा. I'm calling a friend, तुम तो खरीद लो. So I think then a couple of customers started to come in, but yeah, for the first
few. So was it word of mouth? These couple of customers?
Some word of mouth, some initial, small marketing, content. Then I think it took about, and then we did some interesting stuff, right? We said we need to ride on other people, other companies who have scale.
Yeah.
Because we're going to take time to build our scale.
Yeah.
And that's when all those small products came up where we did products with Ola, with Amazon, you could insure your ride, you could insure your phone, a gadget that you're buying on Amazon.
Yeah.
So that also started to build, because those are small transactions. So trust was not that important.
But that creates a huge brand recall.
Absolutely.
When you kind of see it on this, at that scale.
Yeah, huge brand recall, and I'm buying a phone.
Yeah.
So I'm going to insure your phone if the screen breaks,
and
I'm going to charge you $200 for it, $300 for it. So the customer is also not thinking कि यार ये company पैसा देगी कि नहीं देगी. This is convenience. So let me take it.
It's a small price to pay.
Yeah, it's a cost of trial for the customer is low. So that became like a flywheel because people got to know about us.
Yeah.
Then of course we ensured that we did a great job. If their phone screen was broken, we'd pay them on time. That's most important. So I think that started to build, right? Like we were able to ride on a lot of other people's distribution or customer access, so to speak. Yeah.
And then you obviously subsequently raised a lot more money and started to build the brand.
Yeah.
Brand Acko, which is insurance made easy.
Yeah.
At what point did you think that, okay, this is the time to kind of scale and this is the time to really make this a household brand, which is obviously eventually every brand's goal?
So, I'd say in my head, it was always going to happen. It was just the how is I was not clear.
It's ordained.
Yeah, वो होना है. And if it would not happen, I would restart. And like I have that much patience for at least this subject in life now. So I knew it would happen. I knew it could take time. One thing I've learned is everything takes 3 to 4 years longer and twice the amount of money than you think that it takes. So if you think, if I thought I could build the brand or get to X number of customers or whatever scale that I was thinking. By 2020, it'll happen by 2023.
Yeah,
So it takes 2-3 years longer, but I knew it'll happen. I think once we started to get to a little bit of scale, we knew now we had to build on the trust lever. I think one of the things that pains me, if I can call about this business, is that the only way to make money in this business, you have to make money in the business eventually. The way it's traditionally run is by cutting corners on people's claim ka paisa. And that is so, in my head, so wrong. Just philosophically wrong, right? Because if my incentives as a company are not now aligned with you as a customer. Like my way of making money is to trouble you and paying a lot of money to car dealers or banks or insurance agents to sell.
Right.
And that's what we wanted to change.
Exactly.
We wanted to change. We wanted to go as direct to the consumer because then I'm not paying this middle layer and I want to reduce that cost so that I want to do all the pinching on the distribution side. I don't want to do the pinching with on the customer. So if I don't have to put up branches, which they have to because they have to handle agents and training of agents and all that, wo paisa bachega. So I want to pinch on that side. I have to pinch. I have to make money. The business needs to make money. But this side needs to be pinched, not that side. So that's the core, thought process.
Thought process. And this is a question I love to ask. Did the unicorn tag matter to you when it happened in 21? Or was it just something that it's a new age term and it doesn't really matter to...
This wasn't ordained.
This was not ordained.
No, it may sound a little cliche, but frankly, I before startups were a thing, before fintech was a thing, I've been doing this, right? Like for many, many years, right? From being an employee to a software services provider to a broker or aggregator to now this, right? Like to Acko or whatever it is. So for me, this has been for people it's different companies, but for me it's just one single journey. कि मैं सॉफ्टवेयर बेच रहा हूँ इंश्योरेंस कंपनी को, नहीं अब मैं प्रोडक्ट बेचूंगा कस्टमर को, नहीं अब मैं अपना प्रोडक्ट बेच, like it's just like one.
It's just a shift.
It's just a shift. In my head, it's just a shift. Legal entities are changing maybe, but it's like, hey, this is the next step to solve it. So that unicorn status, of course, makes the company feel good. Makes the people who've been working so hard inside the company feel validated. There's some amount of validation involved with it. But frankly, to me, if it would have happened 2 years later, it wouldn't have bothered me because I'm fairly confident on what we're building.
Correct.
That it will provide value to consumers. It will provide returns to shareholders. I may not get it right in the time frame that I'm thinking. Because that nobody can predict. But eventually I will, or eventually it has to work. Maybe it'll take 3-4 years more. So that tag is more, let me put it this way, it makes the team celebrate, which makes me happy. But for me, it's just like another small milestone. But it has to continue. We haven't even scratched the surface.
So in your business, there's this subjective narrative, right? Like where, say, you help somebody in their time of need by just being easy and accessible, and you don't go through those layers that you were describing earlier. Have you heard any such stories from Acko consumers or customers about this ease? That is your foremost, it's what value you want to add.
Many of them actually, and it's very fulfilling because we run it like a business, and sometimes we also forget that we're trying to do better each day, but the lens is more, how do I make it more customer friendly? How do I make it easier for my customer? But sometimes we also tend not to see the impact it is having. I can share one story. Recently this happened. We insure a lot of these gig workers who are on the bikes delivering food to us in like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And some of them die, of course, while delivering, right? Because
trying to make the time.
Or generally there's an accident, right? Even if they're following the rules or whatever. And these are young kids. These are, mid-20s. And just being, one recent story that happened was the boys who passed away, unfortunately passed away. His parents are uneducated. They were so harrowed because they did not, uneducated parents they didn't even know how to go about the paperwork for the, stuff like that, for death certificates and whatever it is that they needed. I think just handing over the money to them and helping that couple is so rewarding when it happens, because they've lost everything, right? Like to lose a son who's 25 or whatever, or someone's mum is in the hospital, and you ensure that by the time they reach the hospital, money is in the bank account.
And they don't have to run pillar to post.
It's just fairly rewarding.
And is that what also drives you? These stories that there could be millions of in the future. Is that something that you feel is a personal goal, or in terms of impact that you want to leave in the world?
I think one of the things I always tell the team is that an insurance customer can never be happy, because if I keep paying the premium to you and I never have to claim, which is good, because nothing untoward has happened. Sometimes if he or she feels, मैं पैसे तो दे रहा हूँ, कुछ मिल नहीं रहा है, I'm not getting anything in return. But if a claim happens, some mishap has happened, right? That's why there's a claim, either an accident or someone's unwell or whatever it is. So he's anyways unhappy in that frame of mind. So both sides is unhappy,
correct,
right? In some sense. But I think the joy is especially when, that part, that moment, when they are scratching their heads and their world has fallen, right? At that point, just easing their life out. Then they love you. They literally love you.
And that's real value.
Yeah, that's real value.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So after Acko and these years that have passed, what is your life learning? What has it been like in totality, if you were to look at it backwards now?
I think lots of lessons, but I don't know where to start with this. But one thing I mentioned, which is I think purpose is supremely important. And the reason I say that is that it gives you some sort of radar in your life. 20 things could be going wrong in your life, but if you have that one thing to anchor you, I think it's kept me stable. It keeps me sort of balanced, right? Because there's something that I want to get up in the morning for, and you're not dreading your days in any way. Second, I think a couple of life experiences have taught me that everything's very fragile. And we have a lot of plans. Everybody, like they say, right? I think I love that saying. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in their mouths, in some sense. So I think I've learned that you can't take yourself and what you're doing too seriously beyond a point, because there are some things that will always be out of your control.
Correct.
And you may have the best plans, you may have put in all the work, but it just may not work. And acceptance is like a big part of it.
Now you're in Bangalore, which is obviously where you have to be to do the plumbing. You miss Bombay, and what about your life there?
I do miss Bombay, but I'm so attached to what I do that sometimes it doesn't matter.
It just moves around.
And I'm in Bombay maybe twice a month.
Oh, wow.
Once or twice a month. So but I do miss. I think the going out scene is definitely better in Bombay. Now it's slightly better in Bangalore. When I moved to Bangalore, things were shut down at 11 p.m. Now at least those things have changed. But I like the hustle of Bombay. It's and there's a little more professionalism in Bombay. There's quite a bit of talent in Bangalore. I'll give you an example. When we opened our office in Bombay, the office boy, if I would land up in office at 9:15, 9:30, office would be spick and span. He'd be well dressed. He'd be ready. And वो कहाँ विराट से बेचारा कहाँ से आता था पता नहीं, but he'd be there like way before me. When I moved to Bangalore and I set up the office, I'd come in at 9:30. And अभी झाड़ू लग रहा है, अभी कुछ तो हो रहा है, it's relatively laid back, very talented, but it's a very different, different. So I miss the fact that Bombay is on point, and you can get stuff done. It's predictable. I miss that.
Busy all the time.
It's busy all the time.
Goes by.
Strangely, I also somehow feel in Bangalore that I have more hours in the day, somehow. I just feel it. I don't know how.
Yeah, relativity.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. So now we have this next segment. It's called Things About You That We Can't Find on Google. There were quite a few. There's very little about you on the internet, but we'll try to get the answers. Any character from a book or a movie that you relate to at all?
I love Samuel L. Jackson's character in Pulp Fiction.
Oh, wow.
It's like, and it goes back to my, it's strangely similar to. I love people who are eloquent, who are able to communicate that, and the way he communicates in the movie was like,
amazing.
It's amazing, but more at an emotional level, I love, I think the character was called Christopher Gardner in Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah.
I think those are two, one I like thoroughly enjoy, like I'm like enthralled with that character, and this one is just like, it's to what extent somebody can keep fighting is
amazing.
Is just insane.
What do you do in your spare time?
I love to watch a lot of documentaries.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so any topic. I could just pick up any topic about corporate scams to wildlife to Zara's inner workings or anything I can lay my hands on. I very rarely do I find time to watch fiction or somebody really has to recommend a show to me or whatever it is. When I don't know anything, I come back home, I want to like brain dead watch something.
Documentary.
It's just documentaries. I love watching documentaries. Yeah.
Amazing. Favorite time of the day?
In the night when everyone's gone to sleep, and I'm a little bit of a night person.
Okay.
Yeah. So and just reading some stuff, quiet. I'm in my head. I love living in my head, and there's no chatter around or nothing to do. I think that's my favorite time. Yeah.
Favorite sport?
Like any Indian boy, I love watching cricket, but I'm terrible at it. I'm decent at badminton. I've played that a lot. Yeah, so I like playing that. Yeah.
If not Acko, what would you be doing?
I have no idea.
If not insurance, which career path do you think you'd take?
Newsreader.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. Amazing. Okay, now we're going to show you an old photo and you have to give me context to that photo. Like what was going on. It's like an old photo.
Oh, this is not very old, by the way.
Oh, it's not very old.
Not very old. I just had longer hair.
Okay, seemed old.
I've aged very quickly, that means. So, no, this is in London.
Okay.
That's my brother.
Okay.
And we recently moved to, he recently moved to Berlin.
Okay.
And so we were just taking a vacation in London. That's what was happening. Oh, wow. This is from many years ago. I have two dogs. This one, unfortunately, has passed away. The one, and they have fun names.
Yeah.
This one was, this was a brother-sister pair picked up off the roads in Andheri.
Oh, wow.
And they are called Alu and Gobi.
How cute.
So, Alu is still there. Gobi is the one in the picture who unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So now we have another one and she's called Mishti.
Cute.
So now it's Alu and Mishti. Yeah.
Sweet.
This is the same vacation. That's my wife. So I somehow managed to take her out for a vacation, recently. So it's probably in Berlin, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. It's a good day.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, last question. What is your life's most valuable lesson? And did you learn it yourself or was it taught to you?
So I think when I started off trying to do something on my own, my dad was consulting somewhere with some mid-sized company, and that guy who ran that company had grown up through the ranks. He was not very well educated, but he had established a fairly decent company in the oil and gas business or whatever. And he came home when I was starting out, trying to do stuff on my own. And he said something to me. He said, कि अगर धंधा करना है तो सर पे बर्फ और ज़बान पे शक्कर is what you need. And keep your head calm and talk sweetly. But you get so many instances in your life where you're so frustrated with things not happening a certain way, or you're angry at underperformance, or you're angry at something else, or you have a bad negotiation with someone, and you lose your temper, or you just behave irrationally, right? But if you really have to, now it kind of strikes me
Yeah.
back again and again to keep a calm head and to keep your tongue in control.
Yeah.
Makes so much sense. Now it makes, you know,
It's good advice.
It's very, very good advice, and now I can connect the dots. And there's a concept there called SNAPSHOT, which is basically saying that we always crave for something that ye hota aisa to acha hota. There's a mental imagery.
Yeah.
If I could be in this place, if my company would be more successful, my marriage would be better, or whatever. Like, or I have this mental imagery of happiness, which I am, you know,
chasing.
There's a snapshot.
Yeah.
You know, there's an image to go to.
Yeah.
And that snapshot is a cause for so much unhappiness because we don't realize it's a 2D image. It's got no dimensions, no layers. When you think of it, you can't think beyond that static image, right? Of what it would be like. And it's so powerful in my head that, you know, we don't value what we have, but we chase a static imagery. And it has so many layers, so many dimensions. You have no idea whether that would even make you happy.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? I think these are two very powerful things that at least they keep sticking with me.
I agree.
So,
I agree. Amazing. Thank you so much. This has been very refreshing. And I'm excited to take your story to everybody who follows us. It was a great interview.
Hopefully.
Thank you. If you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that bell icon. Thank you all for being the best community, and I'll see you soon.
Nelson Mandela, even on Robben Island, he was there for 18 years out of 27 years of imprisonment. He would get up at 5 a.m. and he'd run on the spot. So for anyone who says, oh, I don't have enough time, I mean, here was a man who was in confinement who still got up at 5 a.m. So Tim Cook, for example, Michelle Obama, and even a lot of the great artists, a lot of the great sages of India, you know, they taught us 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. was a time of great magic.
Right.
I think it's called Brahma Murthy.
Yeah.
So I started applying it, and I started realizing it was just a complete game changer to be up while the rest of the world is asleep. Gave me time to meditate and to pray and to exercise, and just became a part of my life.